has expertise in building communities. He co-founded More Than HR Global, MTHRG, in 2002, which has since then grown into a community of over 16,000 members worldwide. He also co-founded the MTHR Global CXO community, the only one of its kind which is growing rapidly across India. Rajesh also founded Living Philosophy Study Group, LPSG, which helps Indians learn Indian philosophy in an electronics engineer and an MBA by qualification. He is a passionate practitioner of Arthashaastra, Pranic Healing, and Kriya Yoga. So with that impressive introduction of our today's session leader, Mr. Rajesh Kamath, I hand it over now to Rajesh. Over to you, Rajesh. Thank you so very much.
Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you, Vikramana, for that very generous introduction. I want to thank all of you, dear friends. It's wonderful to see this overwhelming response to the compelling relevance of Chanakya for challenging times. What does that tell us? This overwhelming response tells us that even after 2,500 years since Chanakya's times, people are still extremely interested and intrigued by the relevance of all that he said, even today. And that's people across the world, because we have people here not just from India, but across the world. So that itself is proof of the relevance to begin with. That said, it is my privilege today to bring to you what Chanakya's wisdom has in store for us, especially for today's times, while it is applicable for all times, including times when business is as usual. So over the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you many insights, right? It is said that you can love Chanakya or you can hate him, but you cannot ignore him, right? Because he's always intriguing. The problem with this is that only the understanding of the Arthashastra or Chanakya's wisdom is where sometimes there is a gap, because of which we form notions of this compelling and historical icon of a great land of Bharat. But as you find out today, probably your interest in Chanakya will be rekindled and you will find out much more which will get you started on a new journey. Okay, so let's begin. And I will encourage you to keep putting in your questions in the chat box after about half an hour to 40 minutes, and we'll pick up as many questions as possible from there and respond at the end. I want to start the session by bringing you a mnemonic called the PULSE. PULSE stands for PU, purpose, L stands for legacy, S stands for sustainability, and E stands for economic well-being. All of these put together bring prosperity. Any one of them not being there will mean no or little prosperity, or prosperity that lasts for a short period of time. Now, let me illustrate that to you with a story. Bharat is a land of stories for centuries, right? And there are several of these stories in many parts of Indian wisdom, but I'm going to bring to you a story from a great epic called Mahabharata. Mind you, now Mahabharata itself is the story of a calamity, right? The Mahabharata itself is a great war that happened in Dwapar Yuga. Within that is the setting of the Vanvas of the 5 Pandavas. And within that is the context for our story. So Markandeya Rishi comes and narrates this story to the Pandavas. And I'm going to narrate that to you. So here it is. There was a great king called Indradyumna, and he was the son of Bharat. And this king, for all the good deeds that he performed in his times, he earned for himself being in Swarg. heaven. And he started enjoying his time in heaven, and immediately it seemed to him he got a call up from the Lord of Swarg, which is Indra himself. So Indra Bhagwan tells him that I have news for you. Indradyumna is all yours. Indra says, we have a policy over here. Policies exist even in Swarg, you see. And the policy is that you can be in Swarg as long as you are remembered on Prithvilok. And we have news that nobody remembers you on Prithvilok anymore. Indradyumna can't believe it. So he says, so now what? So Lord Indra says, now you have to go back to Prithvilok and find someone who still remembers you. Indradyumna says, I've been here just a couple of years and now I have to go down? Indra says, yes, till you find someone. So Indradyumna descends from heaven and he starts moving towards where his kingdom once stood. But he's so surprised that he cannot recognize anything now where his kingdom was. Where did all those palaces go? Where are all the highways he built? The gardens, the stadiums, so many things that he built. He couldn't see it. He lands in the ashram of Markandeya Rishi, the same Rishi who's narrating this story. And he asks Markandeya Rishi, doing namaskaram to him, he says, Rishi, would you remember me? I am Indradyumna, the great king. Markandeya Rishi looks at him with surprise and says, no, I've never heard of you. Looking at the disappointment on the king's face, Markandeya Rishi said, but don't worry, there is someone who has lived much longer than me. Let me take you to him. And he takes him to an owl in the Himalayas who is posed the same question. Do you remember me? The owl also cannot recollect anyone by that name. The owl leads them to a stork in a lake who has lived even longer. The response, however, is the same. I don't remember anyone by your name. But the stork, looking at the now despondent Indradyumna, says, look in this water of the lake. And deep down there was a tortoise. He says, that tortoise is the longest living creature in my kingdom, in this kingdom. Why don't you ask him? And so the question is posed to the tortoise. Do you remember me? I am King Indradyumna. The tortoise raises his head and with tears of gratitude he says, Indradyumna, my grandfather told me about you. Indradyumna has a relief on his face and also eagerness to hear more. The tortoise says, I know of a time when once Indradyumna performed a great yajna. Yajnas were very common in Bharat. And during that time, he decided to do lots of daan, charity. And in that process, he gathered thousands of cattle in a single place. As those cattle beat their hooves when they were being herded away to be given as daan, it raised the dust in the ground and created a large crater. When the rains came, it flooded the crater, and this is that lake, O king. My grandfather lived here with his entire family and his brothers and sisters. After that, his sons. And now I am living here in that same lake. Listening to all of this, Indradyumna king did not know whether he should be happy or sad. He has mixed feelings. Why? Because he had several realizations. And here were some of the realizations. He realized that it's not about the infrastructure because that is not going to last, just as he realized. He also realized it's not about all the good deeds being performed in your lifetime because they too will be forgotten. The only thing that remains is your legacy. The lake was an indirect effect of a deed that he performed centuries back. And because of that lake was he remembered and he could go to Swarg again. So what does this tell us? There are several things, lessons from this story. But the first thing I want to bring to your notice were the tortoise and the other animals. Did you notice the stork, the owl, the tortoise, they all speak? It's no coincidence. This happens in all Indian stories. Animals and trees speak. It speaks about India's great knowledge of ecology. The fact that Bharat lived in harmony with nature, and they had a deep knowledge about all of this. So let's look at what does this tell us about who a leader is. The first thing, one whose purpose is much larger than self. Okay, I want you to listen to this very carefully and take a mental note of it. One whose purpose is much larger than self. One whose legacy stands the test of time. One who considers sustainability of the planet and its inhabitants. Mind you, Indradyumna did all of this, and hence he was remembered years later, centuries later. And one who understands that economic sustainability comes from the long-term view. That's critical, isn't it? So this is the first understanding of who a leader is. We'll be coming back to this again. Remember the acronym, the mnemonic pulse. PU for purpose, L for legacy, S for sustainability, and E for economic sustainability or economic well-being. Now, let's understand why this is so important. By the way, all of this wisdom comes from Kautilya Arthashastra. Yes, Kautilya is the other name for Chanakya. Several of you will be aware. I was reading the questions that our participants sent beforehand, and you have a lot of knowledge of Chanakya and also perhaps many doubts and questions about it. So what is the Arthashastra? We will be responding to that in an overview. Now, if you see on the left-hand side is the cover of the book Arthashastra, published by a bureaucrat called Rangarajan. Now, Arthashastra, to most people, the layperson thinks that Arthashastra is economics. But I'm going to clarify to you that the Arthashastra is much more. Shastra here stands for science, and Artha is prosperity. It has many meanings. Here, Arthashastra stands for science of prosperity. It is a great manual for model governance and leadership. And it has a fantastic coverage of leadership management. Yes, these two things are different. Of economics, of strategy and warfare, of law, of foreign affairs, and much more. It was written in Sanskrit. It consists of 15 volumes or books, about 150 chapters and 180 sections, which goes to about 5,000 plus sutras. Why is it timeless? It is timeless because Chanakya was an excellent student of the human mind. So it is founded on the psychology of the human being. And when that happens, then it becomes timeless because humans may have evolved in their lifestyle. The emotions haven't changed so much. That makes it timeless, and you will see its relevance at all times. That brings us to the question, how is it relevant to challenging times? Here's an interesting topic for you. Chanakya, or Kautilya as we know he's called, refers to the calamities in an entire volume or book in Arthashastra. It's called Vyasan Adhikaranam. Vyasan is the term referred to calamities, disaster, challenging times, and so on and so forth. In this book or volume, he has classified Vyasan into two categories. The natural calamities are called Pidana Varga. These cover droughts, earthquakes, and such natural disasters, including epidemics. The other category is man-made, and that's referred to as Purusha Vyasana Varga. And man-made calamities fall again in subparts. The first one being vices of the self, referring to the vices of the leader itself that can take the kingdom into a calamity. It can also include internal revolt or external enemies invasion, right? So if you look at this, Alexander's invasion that happened during Chanakya's time, which was, by the way, successfully overcome, falls under Purusha Vyasana Varga. And at the same time, you look at the COVID-19 crisis, where would it fall? It seems like it falls in Pidana Varga, but one could argue that it is a combination of both the categories, right? Because much of what we have today is because of the combination of man-made reasons and natural reasons. So the answers also must lie in the same book. So let's look at what Chanakya has to say the leader must do in case of calamities. He says 3 parts. First, the king should strive to prevent the afflictions from arising. Okay, afflictions is the translation of the general term of Vyasan. Second, he should strive to overcome those that have already arisen, because they have arisen, now overcome them. And third, he should destroy all the hindrances that may have caused them or are an outcome of the calamities that have arisen, including the stoppage of flow to the treasury. For the sake of the country's prosperity, friends, don't miss the last line. You can replace the word country with business, you can replace it with society, and so on. Which means that all of these 3 become invaluable for these present times and overcoming the calamities. Yes, we will find some answers here for sure. But I want to take you back to pulse and the first part of it, which is purpose. Now, when we say purpose, how much importance, emphasis is placed on purpose by modern organizations? I want you to think for a moment. When calamities arise, including the present crisis, people instantly go to the second part, which is to overcome those problems which have arisen, right? And not the first one. But Chanakya says, in these times, first go to your purpose. I'm going to share with you 2 quotes. One which is from Arthashaastra and one which is from Indian wisdom in general, and which has been used in several ways. The first one, I refer to it with the organizations that we work with as Praja Sukhe, Sukham Ragyaha, Prajanam cha Hite Hitam. Okay? Praja Sukhe, Sukham Ragyaha. PSSR. Praja, the people. Sukha, the term means happiness, rather long-term happiness, sustained happiness, not pleasure. And Ragyaha refers to the king, the leader, and by virtue of that, the organization. So this sutra says, in the happiness of the people lies the happiness of the leader and the organization. And in their welfare is his own welfare. The second one says, Samasta Jan Kalyani Nirantaram, also referred to by us as SJN principle. This says the greatest good or the highest good of the maximum number of people, meaning stakeholders, not limited only to employees or customers, everyone, for the longest period of time, right? Thus, the first and second cover both purpose and legacy. So the leader is one whose purpose is always greater than oneself. Let me give you an example. We work with an organization in the hospitality segment in Pune. Okay. And on the 6th, when we have our session, I'm going to bring to you the leader of this organization. Now, they run standalone restaurants across Maharashtra with plans to build them in other parts of the country as well. Now, the hospitality business has been badly hit, right? Especially the standalone restaurants have been closed in lockdown. Where is the revenue? However, when they look at their purpose, the stated purpose is the happiness of all its stakeholders. They thought about it and they say, how can we use our capability for skill serving? So one is, of course, they have initiated SOPs for home delivery with the highest standards. But more importantly, they are serving two constituents through NGOs. One is they are serving the police, and second is they are serving the medical fraternity. They are providing to them nutritious food, which is not available to them very easily. Right? This is about purpose. Not only that, there is a charitable foundation that this organization runs. It's called the Live Life, Love Life Foundation, which is normally dedicated to the cause of cancer. But here they have extended themselves for raising funds, which go to Sassoon Hospital in Pune for bringing medical equipment that is helping COVID patients. So that's an excellent example of how purpose can be applied even in challenging times. What about, let's go to the next one. Let's go to, just give me a moment. Yes, let's go to economics, and then we will come to sustainability. Economics has a principle which we refer to as AVA, Artha Eva Pradhana Iti Kautilya. So what does Kautilya say? He says economic well-being is supreme. Note, economic well-being is supreme. Because Chanakya says that both dharma and kama, right, the two next pursuits of humankind as written in Manusmriti, depend on it. Which means whether you want spirituality or whether you want indulgence or in the wealth that you have created, both of that are possible only through economic well-being. Okay, so these two Kautilya highlights and is extremely important because all businesses today, obviously, economic well-being is critical, without which nothing can happen. Now, if you see, purpose answers the first part which we saw in Book of Calamities. Why? Because it spoke about saying that how do we avoid calamities, prevent calamities from happening. Chanakya says focus on your purpose at all times, and this will prevent many calamities from happening. Many organizational times problems are created because of forgetting purpose and the focus on stakeholders. Think about it. This one responds to the second part, that once calamities have arisen, if you have created economic well-being, that will help you tide over the problem, right? Because we need money, we need resources, we need reserves, and only from that we can tide over the challenging times. Of course, there are many other things, but this is one of the answers. If we worked on Artha during normal times, then you will see during challenging times, you can handle it much better. Now let's go to the next one, which is sustainability, right? Here he speaks about protecting produce forests, elephant forests, irrigation works, mines that were made since ancient times, and including now where he has to create new ones. It's interesting. I want you to look at that elephant and connect it with elephant forest. Have you heard of something called elephant forest in present times? Not very commonly, right? But Indians had a great understanding of ecology, as I mentioned earlier. Elephants are a keystone species. A keystone species means that elephants are critical to sustaining the forest. Where elephants are there, the forest will grow and water bodies will also get created, right? So elephant forest is one of the ways of creating new forests and maintaining them. Such a fantastic understanding of ecology. Huh? Now this quote on sustainability addresses the third part in the book of calamities. What did it say? Stoppage of hindrances, which means what caused that calamity. If we look at the COVID-19 crisis, we can say that the answer lies in this. It was caused because of messing with nature. And the answer, therefore, also lies in nature. Right? Already we are seeing how nature is beginning to clear up outside. She looks like she has suddenly been released from the clutches of humanity. And therein lies the answer. And to avoid future hindrances also, we have to worry about ecology. So sustainability is in two parts: economy and ecology. Right? So who can do this? It is done only by a leader. Now, leader in ancient times, there are several leaders whose names we can take. But I want to briefly speak about Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya, because Chandragupta Maurya was his protege and was the first king of the first time Akhanda Bharat was created as a political entity. Right? The first time Bharat was united by an integration of its 16 Mahajanpads. And that happened under the leadership of Chanakya. But let's also talk about modern times. And here I'm giving you 3 examples. One example I think everyone in this audience knows. Jamshedji Tata was the creator of the Tata Group. I'm not going to speak about length about this because you know it. But one thing that I just want to tell you, and several of you would be aware, in 1890s, J.N. Tata had the vision to create an endowment fund which helped fund young students in India study overseas, get a education wherever they wanted. And he also had a pension fund. 1890s, what a vision and what a purpose, right? The next one is Baba Amte. So Baba Amte is again known to many people in the audience. And those in Maharashtra revere him because he was a successful lawyer and a brash one at that. But he changed his purpose to the cause of leprosy affected. Friends, he has created Anandwan, which today has become a smart village. And people are thriving over there. So it's another wonderful example. But I'm going to spend more time on telling you about the leader called Nandakishore Chaudhary and his organization, which is called as Jaipur Living Today. Let's listen to the story. In 1978, N.K. Chaudhary went to his father and said, I want to start a company. What was that motivated by? N.K. Chaudhary was a resident of Jaipur. Jaipur, once we think of Rajasthan, we think colors, right? And all its arts and palaces and its rugs. So that was all around N.K. Chaudhary as a young boy as he was growing up. But what he was drawn to was the pitiable condition of the weavers who were considered untouchable. He found that really sad. So in 1978, he went to his father for a loan. His father would rather have him start join a job, a government job, which would give him a regular salary. But N.K. Chaudhary had already decided his purpose, which still continues. The purpose was providing sustainable livelihood for the poor in the rural areas of Rajasthan. What a purpose. So N.K. Chaudhary, with that loan, he created a company called Jaipur Rugs at that point in time. Jaipur Rugs today is over 250 crores. It has got over 4,000 artisans across 6 states in India. And its products are handmade rugs, the most beautiful, which are exported to all parts of the world today. So how did he create this? Is again very interesting. Most rugs, most carpets across the world are created in factories. And these factories are located in cities, right? But N.K. Chaudhary said, I will take the factory to where the weaver is. And he did exactly that. He first learned weaving himself, right? Leaders can learn so much from him. He learned the art of weaving, and then he started creating a setup where the material, including the looms, were taken to the weavers where the families were. Because then the entire family was involved in creating those carpets, those rugs, those beautiful creations. What does that do? One, it is providing livelihood for their entire family. Second, because they are secure in the villages where they are, so even their next generation and the generation after that and so on remain where they are. You may ask, what's so great about this? It is great because you can see historically the traditional arts of India have vanished where the families and generations are not taken care of. So this is a mastermind, N.K. Chaudhary. And he has made Jaipur living a very prosperous business today. What did he follow? Pulse, purpose, legacy, sustainability, and economic well-being. Having heard this story, friends, now it is time for you to do some thinking. So, I'm going to ask you some questions which Chanakya would ask. I want each of you to get a pad and pen and think about these. We won't have time to listen to your answers now, but I will give you a moment to dwell on it. You can respond to them later. We will send you these questions again, because when you come back for the second session on the 6th, I would have liked you to already respond to this. The first question, what difference am I making to this world? The second, what need in society am I helping address? The third, who am I serving? Okay, so please think about these. These are very important questions and respond to them. You can have many answers. If you don't, it is still important to think about how you can go to these questions through the work that you do. The questions on legacy. Yes, so some people are asking for the questions back. I'll give you a moment. What difference am I making to this world? What need in society am I helping address? Are you addressing a need that is felt in society? Are you seeing it, identifying it, and working on it? By the way, I saw in the questions many people asking about a startup and how can we start a business in these times. Friends, your answer lies here. And who am I serving? Which segment or constituent of society am I serving is a very critical question. More questions from Chanakya. What will my organization look like in the next 50 years? I do know that there is one conglomerate that has made plans for the next 100 years. Okay, but not many even think about this, because when I pose these questions to certain organizational leaders, they are thinking whether even in the next 10 years they have thought of what will develop, what will evolve from their organization. Okay, if you have a purpose, it is easier to think about these questions. What am I creating that will outlive myself? When Chanakya created the Arthashaastra, think of what he created, which is still there and we are referring to it. When Chanakya created Chandragupta Maurya, after him King Bindusar, and after that Samrat Ashok, Ashok created an emblem called the Ashok Chakra, which stands as testimony to his legacy and is there on our national flag, right? So you can see the answers to legacy are there in the work which Chanakya did. All that we find in the Arthashastra has been acted on and worked on by Chanakya during his lifetime and thereafter. This brings us to the question about the leader and who is a leader in the words of Chanakya in the Arthashastra. So I'm going to introduce you to a term called Swami. I like this term even more because it has got both Sanskrit and English in it. Okay, whether you look at the Swa in Indian languages or the Me in English, it is focusing on the self, but here it is talking about that which is within. The holistic leader keeps looking within for answers. Okay, that's the meaning of Swami, one perspective of it. I'm going to tell you more about this. Mind you, generally the term Swami is used for spiritual leaders, but there is nothing that is Hindu about this. Let me tell you, this is a Sanskrit term that spells out leadership. Let's see more. The concept of a Swami appears in a sutra in the Arthashastra. The sutra goes as follows. Swami Amatya Janpad Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakrutayah. Okay, I'm giving you the adaptation now, the modern meanings of these words. The first word, Swami, stands for the leader. Amatya, the manager. Janpad, the customer. Durga stands for infrastructure. Infrastructure has three components to it: physical, digital, and emotional. Emotional infrastructure refers to cultural component. Kosha refers to finances or treasury. Danda is the team or the rest of the workforce. And Mitra refers to all external stakeholders who are allies for the business. All of these, Prakrutaya, make up the leader's sphere of influence. Swami here is the self-conquered person. Okay? Self-conquered refers to one who has conquered the senses. At least that's where it begins, which has got another commonly used term in our Shastras, which is Indriya Jaya. Okay? Now, I won't go into Indriya Jaya in detail, but I will give you a better understanding of a Swami through a comparison between the regular term for a king, which is Raja, and the term which Chanakya has used over here, which is Swami. You could say it's the comparison between a leader, which is Swami, and a boss, which is Raja. So Swami is an attitude, and Raja is a position, like a CEO, a chairperson, and so on. Leadership can be there in any part of the organization, but definitely at the top, this mindset, this attitude is definitely required. The Swami is at ease being at his or her best. Okay, I said her because Swami can also be understood as Swamini. So all our leaders today are a mix. Gender is absolutely not a material over here. It can be immaterial of the gender. The concepts are the same. It is at ease or she is at ease being. The Raja is busy doing in activity, right? More the time that is taken in work, it makes the Raja feel extremely busy and great. Swami, in the Swami, consciousness is evident. In the Raja, restlessness is evident. Why? Busy doing. The Swami is striving to conquer self. The Raja is very busy conquering things in the world, including places and factories and things and possessions and so on. By the way, these are a contrast. I'm not saying, the Raja is bad, but you get an idea. And Swami, most of all, serves the people. The Raja loves being served. So all in all, you can say the Swami is an evolved leader. The Swamini is an evolved leader. Right? So let's get an idea now of two examples of Swami. One is an example, again, we are all familiar with. Gandhiji is a great example of Swami because, again, there was purpose, legacy, sustainability, and much more. It surprises me sometimes that in our land, we do not understand Gandhiji completely and think of him only as a freedom fighter. That was just one part of his personality. Yes, he was a successful barrister in South Africa till he found the cause of the needy and the underprivileged. And he dedicated himself to the cause there. And when he found that people in India there are laborers, underprivileged who need him, who need representation, he moved to India and he championed that cause for the rest of his life. However, he had a great understanding of Indian wisdom and concepts, and he propagated great living, a great ecology, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So we know this about Gandhiji. Azim Premji is a modern leader. Let's just look at what he has been known for, besides the businesses that he runs. Very interestingly, he has devoted, rather committed, most of his fortune, running into millions, to the cause of education, the purpose of the future of Bharat. Right? That makes a Swami or Swamini. Get the contrast. Why do we consider these people as role models? For the same reasons why Chanakya called them as Swami. Now, I want to bring you to one aspect of leadership, which many people ask me, both in the organizations we work with, as well as those who know that I am connected to this particular field of work. The question is, what is the role of leadership? Try defining this in your own words, and it will be very difficult for you to do so. You will have many versions of it. Chanakya has defined this in a 4-part cycle. This cycle is called Chatushtayam. Okay, meaning the parts of 4 which makes a cycle. The cycle is as important as the segments themselves. It begins with creation. Okay, which means even when we think of a new business, we have to bring it into existence, which is creation. The second part is consolidation. Having created a business is not easy, but after that, maintaining it is even more difficult. So we have to reinforce and strengthen it, right? That part is consolidation. Without a strong foundation, when startups try to jump into expansion under pressure or under excitement, it's not going to sustain. The third part is expansion. Having consolidated, strengthened the business, now businesses can look at expanding. The fourth part is succession or renewal. Renewal means reinventing, right? Because you have to keep reinventing your business to remain relevant. But succession is equally important because each leader has to think about the next leader. I would like to give you the example of two businesses we all know. One of them is in Pune, the other was headquartered in Nagpur, now in Pune as well. First is the Chitles, okay, very well known for its bakarwadi and much more. The Chitles have run into the fourth generation now by following the Chatushtayam. I don't know whether they know Arthashaastra, but they seem to have adopted this very beautifully. And the fourth generation now is powering the business with high tech. The second is the Chordias, right? Everyone has spent a lot of time in the kitchen during the lockdown. I'm sure you are familiar with one or more of these brand names. Praveen Masale, Suhana, Ambari. All of this belong to the Chordias, right? They too have run successfully into the third generation now. They've managed this very beautifully without speaking about it. I've had the good opportunity of meeting people from both these businesses, and they are extremely grounded and very happy to share the ingredients of it. So friends, now I come to two parts we have to do before we go to your questions. The first are the questions for challenging times from Chanakya. Friends, these three questions should help you to move out of these challenging times much faster than others. I guarantee you that these questions, if mulled over and you introspect, you will get answers to how to bring about resurgence in the fastest possible way. So the first question is, how am I striving to strengthen and consolidate that which already exists? Because you're going to need this all the time. Second, during this period where we were struck down by crisis, and especially the lockdown, what capabilities am I creating in self? This is the question for the Swami or the Swamini and each of you who has the qualities of a Swami and Swami, which will enable me to grow the organization. Third, what capabilities am I creating in the team which will enable me to grow the organization? If your only focus has been on how do I cut down my team, friends, I can tell you that you are putting the ladder against the wrong wall. Okay, I will allow you to look at these questions for a few moments because you need to respond to these as well. And finally, your call for action. I'm leaving with you some generic questions which everybody in corporates are used to, right? What will I start doing having learned whatever we learned today? Remember, there's a second session on the 6th where you will get much more. Second, what will I stop doing? And third, what will I continue doing? To summarize, today we learned about PULSE, which is purpose, legacy, sustainability both of economy and ecology. We learned the Chatushtayam, which is the role of leadership. The cycle of leadership consists of creation, consolidation, expansion, and succession. What are we going to learn in the next session? Many things, but I want to tell you about two things which will help you become a Swami or Swamini if you are already in that quest or even otherwise. The first is a term that Chanakya uses repeatedly called Vinay. The entire first book is dedicated to this. It's called Vinay Adhikaranam. The second is Dincharya. Okay? With this, we come to the end of my session. Here are my coordinates, but I want to thank ILA Leadership Academy, the entire team, starting with Jebi and Vibhuti for having made this possible. Of course, we are going to take questions, and also my colleague Guru Amrita, who made this partnership happen. Yes.
Hey, Rajesh, hi, this is Sridhar here, and that was really awesome. The concept of Swami comparing with Raja, the whole concept of who's a leader and who's a manager kind of a thing, and some of those in very interesting concepts. I'm sure there are 800 of them in the audience today. I'm sure they would have found really valuable. We have about 200 questions, by the way, during the registration session, and there are many questions kind of coming on the chat window as well. We just want to raise a few questions, and hopefully we will answer the rest of the questions by mail if you are not able to do it within the time frame. Okay. The first question I'd like to pose to you is, what do you think would be Chanakya's advice to organizations today which are extremely low on financial resources due to the present crisis? How do you think they should?
Right. So this is one of the commonest questions which people ask, and the answer lies in the following sutra. It says, Karya Sankateshu Artha Vyavasayini Buddhihi. Karya Sankateshu. Now, this is also a sutra which can be applied during normal times, but even more relevant now. This is the definition of innovation. Because Karya Sankateshu says that when there is a crisis, when there is a difficulty, when we have challenging times, Artha Vyavasayini, deploy all the resources that you have at hand first. Study them. Look at them. Look at all the resources you have. Also look at the capabilities you have, because here resources I'm using as a generic term. It also means human capabilities. What we end up doing oftentimes is we are trying to put out fires. But Chanakya says, first put your house in order. That is the application of buddhi. So you find answers within your present crisis, and you will be probably able to bring about a new business once we have overcome the crisis. So advice from Chanakya would be, do a detailed study of what you have. This seems simplistic, but the answer lies here. Look at it deeply. Yes, Sridharna, next.
Thank you so much. Vikram, you want to take the next question? Or? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sridhar. Rajesh, from my side also, congratulations. What a brilliant session. Like I was mentioning in the start, that to be able to relate present day business to Arthashastra is going to be quite an experience. I definitely look forward to the next ones. Well, the question that I would like to put to you, Rajesh, is that you just spoke about resources and capabilities. Sadhguru has pointed out to us very nicely that we normally refer in the ordinary business context to human as a resource.
Right.
But what Sadhguru says is that human is actually not a resource, because resource by definition is a limited quantity. But human is actually a limitless possibility. So it is better to refer to it as human potential than human resource. How does
Right.
Chanakya's Arthashastra align with this thought?
Right. So, Chanakya has another core principle which says, Daya Dharma Janma
Rajesh, just 1 minute, sorry to interrupt. We just want to tell the audience that we have put up a poll on the right side. So please answer those polls so that we can get a better feedback on how we can improve on the next session. So the poll you'll see on the right side, please go ahead and answer those questions. Sorry, Rajesh, continue your session.
No problem. So Chanakya says in the Chanakya Sutras, Daya Dharmasya Janma Bhumihi. Here, Daya does not refer to compassion. We often tend to translate Sanskrit or Indian terms directly into English in one word. But here, at best, Daya would mean deep empathy. Deep empathy means putting yourself into the minds and hearts and souls of other people. Chanakya says that this form of Daya is the Janma Bhumi, is the soil in which one can find what to do, what's your purpose, what is the action to be taken with respect to that category, that constituent of people. For example, if we have to take decisions on people, right? Many are struggling with it and it's a real struggle, which is I have, let's say, 400 employees or 1,000 employees. And suddenly, because business has contracted now, I don't know what to do with so many people. Now, many businesses will take a knee-jerk reaction of cutting down on this workforce. Chanakya would employ a slightly different method. Link it back with what I mentioned earlier. Chanakya will say, make an inventory of capabilities of the people. They have unlimited potential. You absolutely said it right, Vikram, and thanks to Sadhguru for that. They have unlimited potential. Make an inventory of their capabilities. Now, looking at those capabilities, see what you need now. Don't look at their seniority. Don't look at, where they are and things like that. Now, rework what you need to do by way of those capabilities and try and map them to people. All right. Now, renegotiate your work contracts with each of them the way you need to the amount of utilization of their capabilities. Please value them for who they are rather than the titles and things and the salaries which they carry. So I always feel, and I advise the organizations which we work with, saying that rather than having to do away with people or cut down on salaries across the board or some such thing, please first do a deep study of what capabilities you have and what these people can do. Then you look at, can I work with each of them to communicate what we need them for, how much time do we need them for, what kind of work we can do together, and raise their morale. Because in the pursuit of trying to make ourselves economically viable, I think many organizations, whether publicly announced or not, are taking harsh steps. It's going to reduce the morale of the existing people if it is done without communication and proper communication, empathetic communication. And when you start back again, the productivity of your existing people is going to be much lower. So take an approach from deep empathy. Chanakya also says that you look at things from an approach of Satya Dane. Satya is clarity over here. Okay? Because it's a Dharma Mule Satya Dane. Satya is clarity, seeing things as they are. Dane is a word for contribution. The leader should be able to see what am I contributing to the lives of my employees, rather than only looking at what am I getting from these employees. Right? With that approach, the leader, the Swami or Swamini will be able to think what else is possible rather than the standard or conventional approach of cutting down on people or cutting down on salaries. Yes, answers have to be found, but they need deeper thought.
It's really interesting because many organizations are struggling actually to really keep their original workforce, especially in the MSME sector, and they don't have cash. They're running out of cash.
Right.
So, what is the advice to these people?
Right. So I answered part of this earlier in saying that look at what resources you have. But I'll also answer this in another way. I feel that Chanakya always would look at opportunities in crisis. For example, when Alexander invaded the country, the entire country would have been conquered, right? Alexander had already done that. Persia was defeated, Egypt was defeated. Why did it not happen in India? Chanakya looked at it as an opportunity to unite the nation. So we have to look at crisis as opportunity. Is there an opportunity within the present crisis that enables me to develop a new line of business? If there is, then look in that direction. To look at crisis only as a problem which I have to overcome is not enough, right? Just as Chanakya said, you also have to stop the hindrances and look at what are the barriers. So, for example, the organization that I mentioned to you earlier are looking at now how do they raise the standards of their hospitality business so that customers also can be educated on how they will be delivering safe and nutritious food where every single precaution is taken care. They have to raise their own standards. Is it going to cost? Of course it's going to cost. And every single employee will have to be trained on this. But they are creating a new opportunity because now a new field of business may develop where people will be more and more conscious about nutritious food. One example. Second, the same organization also has a vertical in wellness, which now they will look at more carefully because hopefully humans will be more concerned about their health and being holistic beings. So opportunities within crisis is what Chanakya would say.
Fantastic. Okay. When you really explain the difference between Raja and a Swami, I feel both of them may look at succession in a very, very different way. Now, how do I build succession within the organization? How do I ensure that I build leaders so that
Right.
I become redundant as soon as possible and the organization can run on its own? So, what is your view on what does Chanakya say about leadership succession, especially in large organization? How should one approach?
Yes. So if you go back, it's an excellent question. If you go back to Chatushtayam, there is a fourth part which speaks about succession or renewal. In Sanskrit, he says it as Vruddhasya Tirthe Pratipadanicha. Your Tirthe refers to the worthy one. It is not referring to the son of the leader, daughter of the leader, or any such things, or return from, a foreign university, none of those. Worthy one. Now, in worthy one, what does Chanakya mean? Actually, Chanakya has stated 51 qualities which are called as Swami Sampad. 51 qualities have been listed out in the Arthashaastra painstakingly, which covers every possible leadership competency, as we would call it in organizations today and beyond. Now, in those are four parts. I want to tell you only about one part of that. It's called Abhigamika Gunaha. Abhigamika literally means a passage. But here, for modern adaptation, we can say transition. So Chanakya says, look at it very closely when potential leaders within the organization are moving from one role to another. How they handle the transition has got many qualities. If you find half or more of those qualities, you already have the makings of a succession. Chanakya would recommend that look for leadership succession early and many, right? Just as was made famous by several organizations across the world, but look for them early. And your capability should not be based only on economic capability. Therefore, Chanakya has put them into various categories, each of them invaluable. Yeah, so that's part of the answer. Of course, we can go into much more detail.
So this leads to, you covered some of this earlier as well. We always say, what's the difference between leader and a manager? We always say, leader is somebody who does the right things, and manager is somebody who does things right. So essentially, leader is looking at an effectivity or transformation, and manager is looking at efficiency or given a task, how you can do within right. So, what is Chanakya's view on some of these aspects between a leader and a manager?
Yes, lovely question. So, in Chanakyan scheme of things, I showed you the definition of the Saptang. Saptang is the 7-part organization, and the first part was Swami. Swami stands for the leader. The second part was Amatya, minister then, but manager today. Chanakya has two roles for these, which are separate from each other, can overlap at times, but by and large they are separate. The Swami, we know the role is the Chatushtayam, which needs to be a planning. But the manager's planning is for execution of projects. So Chanakya defines 5 parts in that execution, which I won't go into now, but he guides the manager to be able to do execution perfectly. So leader is a visionary and his focus is the future and guiding the rest of the organization. The Amatya or the manager today has to build mastery in execution. You can say that one has to focus much more on strategy and guidance, providing direction, and the manager has to focus much more on execution.
Yeah, Vikraman, I think you want to say something?
Yes, I had an interesting question that had been put up. Is how important is following dharma during difficult times or when you feel you have to win the game or situation by any means? In fact, if you could comment on the aspect of Sham, Dam, Dand, Bhed, does this really have a negative connotation in any way?
Okay. Okay. You have asked 2 questions which will take 1 seminar each, 1 webinar each. I'm going to try and at least provide some insight. Okay. Dharma is not just spiritual. Dharma is purpose, which translates into responsibilities, which translates into actions. Those actions performed righteously, which means in a morally, ethically, and legally sound way, are dharma and can be done all the time. I believe the Swami and several leaders have done this and done it successfully. It is sheer misunderstanding that people have. It comes from the lack of understanding of Chanakyan concepts, which makes them feel, thanks to even several Indian authors perhaps, who have contributed to it, that thinks that, okay, as long as the goal is there, any means can be used to achieve it. No, Chanakya never said that. First. Second is your question on what you called as Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. First of all, a clarification, at least in the Arthashaastra and in Shukraniti, it is called as Sam, Dan, Bhed, Danda. Okay, I repeat, Sam, Dan, Bhed, Danda. And without going into details of this, I want to say that all these 4 are not the regular course of action. These 4 are supposed to be resorted to when the need arises. So Chanakya says in regular times, think only about 2. Okay? I don't want to even refer to as Sam and Dan. You can think of it as Man and Artha, which means that either honor the person or think of how do we reward the person, not necessarily only monetarily. It's only in certain circumstances that one needs to think, are there other ways? By the way, Chanakyan concept over here is extremely highly developed. It's not possible to cover it in one shot, but I do want to tell you that the entire principle of Sam, Dan, Bhed, and Danda has been grossly misunderstood. My suggestion to you is, till you understand this really well, don't blame Chanakya for coming out with this.
But one very
Thank
interesting
you.
question from Shailendra, who's actually currently in the country Laos, who's actually which is a neighbor to Cambodia. So his question is very interesting question. He says, how does Chanakya manage our current leadership, which knows what to do, how to do, but unwilling to take action on that? For instance, like police reforms, judiciary reforms, economic reforms, etc. What's your view on that? Basically, when you know something to do, but you're unable to take action.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So I think there are many facets of this. Okay, it suggests to me, just going deeper, that the person who is unable to take action has someone above him who is not enabling. Okay, at least that's what I read from it. Because Chanakya will say, if you are the one who is responsible as a decision maker, action you must take, even if it's unpopular. Okay, he was a very great exponent of taking unpopular decisions if it's going to cause long term happiness. Okay, never in the short term. Chanakya looked at things from a long term. If in the long term it's going to bring good for the nation, good for the business, take that call today. If on the other hand, you are not able to take that call because your leader is preventing you, then Chanakya would say, do a deep study of what the leader's attitude is, what the leader's thinking is, right? Chanakya uses a phrase, very brief, I want to say, is understand the cow for being able to get the maximum milk out of it. Okay, understand the cow for being able to get the maximum milk out of it. Okay, I don't want to go into greater detail, but you get the idea.
So true. There's something called a production and a production capability balance. Don't go and take all the golden eggs at the same time and by killing the golden goose. Take one egg at a time. Let's understand the curve, understand the production capability before you start focusing on production. I think we have just about exceeded a couple of minutes from our scheduled time. There are a lot of questions out there. I will take ownership and responsibility to have it answered. I will actually make note of these questions. At this point, I just want to hand it over to Vikas to make some announcements for the next session. Vikas, if you can just take over. I will just.
So, Sridharanna, can I just take half a minute?
Yeah, please, yes, go ahead.
I saw one of the commonest questions was, how do I start studying Chanakya? Okay, or start reading Chanakya. First of all, I want to tell you, I saw another question which said, I have gone through the Arthashaastra many times. If you have gone through the Arthashastra many times, I want to become your student right now, because Arthashastra takes lifetimes to study and master. Okay, so one has to study Chanakya very gradually. The starting point is not Chanakya Niti. Mind you, Chanakya Niti is a misunderstood term, and the book that captures Chanakya Niti is not something that you must study if you are striving to be a leader. I'll give you a simple book which I have used, recommended, and people have benefited from it. It is called Chanakya on Management by a gentleman called Ashok Garde. Chanakya on Management by Ashok Garde. You can start studying this book one sutra at a time. I guarantee you, you will make some progress. Please don't read it like a novel. Study one sutra at a time. Thank you. Yes, over to you.
That's a good takeaway. So we have a book to at least read maybe some part of it before the next session.
Yes.
So Vikas, go ahead. You can share your slides and just make a point for the next session. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Rajesh, Sridhar, and Vikram for that very engaging session. We do have a follow-up of this. Do join us for the part 2 of this webinar. That is on 6th May, 7 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. The links will be sent to you via email. So please check your emails for the link to the next webinar session. With that, we come to the close of this session. Thank you very much for joining. Namaskaram. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.